Yeah.
Satish.
Oh man, I tried to
Oh
like
man.
tried to figure out what kind of music we'll be jamming to when we first get started. You know what I'm saying?
This is amazing, man. Honestly, every time, every single time, Satish, whenever I look into your Instagram profile, man, the music is always popping, man. You have the best choice of music, seriously.
Yeah, geek it out, man. It's like no more crate hunting, no more buying records and trying to figure out. I just like look for the weirdest, craziest sounds, and then I turned on the feature where it shows you what your friends are listening to. Then I go down that rabbit hole. I'm like, who's this, and why is he listening to this, and what's this soundtrack? And it's crazy. Like I spend way too much, but what else you gotta do with COVID, man? I'm all into the music business now. I'm building a dream company, baby. It's all
That's a
great.
that, that's amazing, man. Yeah, I guess for me too, like what I've been trying to do pretty recently is actually, try to go on like Spotify and like follow, new followers or even just new friends who
Yeah.
might listen to like specific music that I've never listened to before. And I realized with life, like you have to just start trying new things and just
Oh,
kind of go
100%.
from there, man.
Yeah, yeah. So I found this a friend of a friend was listening to this track called the Samurai Code, and the name just got me. I was like, I'm a big Samurai fan. I love everything about Samurai and the lifestyle,
Yeah.
etc. So I went and then I found this Japanese lo-fi hip hop uh, playlist. And this track, which I've been listening to, I'm just gonna play like another like a minute, but it's
Yeah.
the way it rises up and hits you in the morning. Well, this is my go-to morning track now, man. Check it out.
I
It's like, damn.
I like that, man. Wow.
It's got little.
It kind of makes you feel like a samurai warrior now.
Yeah. It's like the layers on layers and layers of that song, which is perfect for the conversation of what we're gonna have, which is all the layers of complexity that helps sort of create this entrepreneurship lifestyle, which people see just the tip of, like the success or failure. That's all they see. Oh
Hmm.
man, something happened and you're no longer in business, or oh my gosh, you're crushing it. But all the other complex layers, the first beat, the second beat, the third vocals, the all of the complexities. In so many ways, I feel like it's like entrepreneurship is like trying to figure out your song.
Oh man, it's I feel like I've been trying to find my own song for the past like couple of years. Wow, that's yeah, I totally understand how like music is, like a kind of like an underlying structure where it's like building a house technically.
Yeah,
Starting from the foundation all the way to the bottom. Going up from upper house or from the first floor, second floor to the roof. That's how you kind of have to look into entrepreneurship. And for me, man, I've been honestly trying to find my own groove and trying
yeah.
to find my own samurai spirit as well too. So it's been going good,
Did you
man.
just buy a
Yeah.
condo? Did I see something on Instagram? Did you buy a condo?
Yeah, I did pretty recently. So
How recent? Like before COVID, after COVID?
yeah, so this was before COVID actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was like,
so
who's out there spending money during COVID? It has to be.
oh man. Yeah, so I guess with the condo here itself too, it's near the Eden Center actually.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere around like high 400 square feet, so it's like 480. But for
Yeah.
me, I realized that like this is just a given opportunity that will come by in the meantime, and
Yeah.
perhaps even it's a future investment basically. And I'm looking for in my own personal life that I'm looking for things that will lead me into more, high positive investments for me into the future. So, I could leave more, I can basically just live more free. And I think
Yeah.
that's what everyone wants to do later on.
No, 100%. No, I don't put you on the spot because last time I met you, I think you were like 21 or something. But you seem
Yeah.
like an old soul. Like, are you still 21, 22, or did you grow up on me? I didn't realize it.
I just grew up 1 year, man. I'm 22.
Jesus Christ, man. I was like, checking out what you're doing. I'm like, man, this kid at 22 already has properties in his head. I was checking out LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and I was like, what, you're co-founder of a venture company now? And I already knew you were, into the speaking scene. You already had a bunch of startups, and now you're purchasing future investments. Where do you get the clarity at 22 for this kind of stuff, man?
Oh man, that's a great question. I try to ask myself that every single day. I always look for things that don't have a short-term aspect that will make me happy, but I look for things that are more long-term into the future. And I realize that, at this given time, especially when I'm a young age, a lot of young people, tend to go out to do a lot of crazy stuff, like not crazy stuff, but they kind of like waste a lot of money going to
Bottle
clubs and
service, baby. Wildflower.
exactly, man. And the thing is, that's actually not a bad thing. I mean, it could be a lot of pure enjoyment for a lot of couple of people, but what I find is the happiest thing for me is literally to focus on myself for the future. So, I don't, have to worry about a lot of different things that might come up later on. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's crazy. So take me back. You're 22. A decade ago, you were, you know, 10 playing video games, trying to figure out like, what to do, meet girls in school. A decade is not a lot of time when you're that young, where people are focused on getting a job, finding a job, finishing school, trying to figure out like what to do with themselves. And you're in a position that I meet a lot of people that are in their 30s trying to like get out of their first phase, which is, I studied, went to school, got a job, and now I'm like, oh, I'm awoke. I'm like, I got a side hustle. I'm doing this. But you started off down this path. So, what was the upbringing like? Are your parents entrepreneurial? Or was there influences around you that got to put you on this path sooner?
Yeah, for sure. So man, I guess when I was pretty much young, I did a lot of what young kids did,
Yeah.
collect Pokemon cards, collect Yu-Gi-Oh cards, do whatever that you can to keep yourself busy. But with myself, I guess with both my mom and my dad, they actually own a sushi kind of restaurant. So it's called Max Sushi. I'm not too sure if you ever heard of that before. But
Wife's a huge
watching
sushi lover, man. It's like we're the only Indian family that would eat sushi first.
Honestly, I don't know. I've seen a couple of my friends who love sushi, so I'm just trying to, I guess, like bring into them new aspects of new things that they might like. Um,
Got a bit of that Indian flavor. Like most Indian folks, we like crunchy shit. Like we eat rice and curry with some crunchy stuff. So we only order the sushis with that crispy stuff on it. It's that
oh
stuff.
yeah, that's so true. That's literally
Man,
the best one,
COVID,
man.
COVID's ruined our weekly sushi outfits. Go back. But yeah, please.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess just watching both my mom and my dad, work several hours. They literally started from waking up at like 6 a.m., going to the hustle. Um, I guess just to kind of like go all the way back to my parents is literally they both actually came from Korea. And they came here about when I was around 4 years old or 5 years old. And with my dad and my mom, they try to find new ways to hustle. So whether this would be working from part-time jobs to full-time jobs and try to understand like what fits you the best.
Mm,
And in the end, both my mom and my dad, they figured out that the sushi business might be, a lot of good advantages to them, just because it might bring a lot of income to them, but even, perhaps secure a better future for myself and also my sister as well.
right.
So they started the sushi business probably I think back in like 2000 and I think 7 or 2006. So this is I think a couple of like away years back.
Yeah.
But me watching that when I was a little kid, I guess for me, I didn't really have like my parents to be there for me a lot. So my parents kind of relied me on, different parents' family to kind of, just to kind of watch over me, just to see what I'm doing, just because they're, tremendously busy.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just so self-aware at that time where it was just really like I saw everyone of what they were doing. And, by seeing a lot of those different like kind of challenges and the different stuff that they've been doing, I realized that, what, maybe it's good for me to try new things, whether this would be me, having like a newspaper, like selling newspapers from, houses to houses or just anything like that. So from that point, I was just like, what? Like, I just gotta get my feet just started somewhere. And
Uh,
I always had that like entrepreneurial spirit when I was, I guess, a pretty much like a young kid there.
when you're watching your parents, and we share some similarities, even though we're like 20 years apart.
Yeah.
Uh, my parents also took me out of India when I was 4 or 5, and then we moved to Singapore. And most of my memories start in Singapore, and I have very little, like some very small fragments of memories back from India, right?
Mm.
And they show up in like the weirdest dreams where you feel like you're at a spot, but you've never been there. You don't remember anything, and you wake up and you're like, wait, what? Why do I remember walking down that hallway or the street? And uh, how far back does your mind go? Do you remember Korea, or things start off once you moved?
Yeah, I guess for myself, the thing that I memorized the most is probably when I was the last time that I went to Korea was probably when I was, I think, 10 years old, just for like a quick little vacation with my family. Um, but at that time, I was just this kid who, loved playing soccer. I was a huge, like Manchester United fan.
Ooh, dang.
That's where, seriously, man.
I'm gonna get some haters commenting later.
I know. I can already feel the pressure coming by. I might have to get off on this.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I used to just be this huge like Man United fan. I used to play a lot of sports when I was like back then. And I feel like with kind of how I adapt to competition is literally from the sports that I played like all the way back then.
Right.
But at this time now, I guess I'm trying to kind of understand more of my own spirit in a way. So whether this is be me, try to understand to love myself more, or to understand that, you know, not all of this money or all of this other accomplishments is literally, it basically it doesn't make up who you are basically in the end.
Mm.
Um,
It's so
yeah.
refreshing to hear young people say that, man, because, you know, uh, I've seen the transition in thinking from young people over the last 10 years. I do a lot of work with, young folks, as you know, both in my own community and since selling the agency more sort of on a global level, Brazil or India or whatever. And I'm seeing this awakening of like money is important, but purpose is more important.
Mm,
And and I come from a time where, growing up poor was the standard because we're an immigrant culture, right? Like the first wave of anything
mhm,
is what I belong to. The first, family that left India from our side, the first ones that grew up in Scarborough. Like everything was so first, where you're just used to having very little,
mhm,
and the opposite was beaten into your head. Like, you see how poor we live, go become rich. You see how shit things are, go become successful. So success and money was a reaction to life, right?
mhm,
But then when I look at like what your parents did or what I'm doing for my kids, it's a different type of gift. We're not
mhm,
handing you a golden spoon with, here's $1 billion in the bank account, live your life. We're also eliminating that stress of survival, right?
mhm.
When you look around at sort of what you're trying to do, what starts to like motivate you? Like, let's get beyond like the fuzzy words of purpose and passion. Like when you get up in the morning, and you look at yourself, you're like, okay, I got 24 hours today.
Mhm.
Uh, how do you start to think about what you want to do?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Um, so I guess for myself, I've been having this like huge self-reflection over the past couple of years for myself, and what I realize is you always have to look at the person. You always want to basically be the better person that you are from yesterday. And I always stick to that. And one of the biggest, I guess, changes that I've learned as well too is never stop comparing yourself to literally anyone that is out there.
Ooh.
It has been such, man, honestly, this has
Rewind
been
that, bro. Say that one more time. People need to hear it.
for sure, man. Honestly, to everyone out there, on Instagram or anyone else, social media is literally just a way for, people to kind of realize that, you're not just good enough. You see other friends going on yachts and going to places and stuff like that, but then you're the only one who's, sitting, on your couch and doing stuff like that. But the thing is, people have different chapters in their life, and that's one of the biggest things that people don't realize is because,
Mm,
man, like stop comparing yourself to others. That's like it's so toxic, man. It's the
yeah.
worst thing ever. Seriously.
I was reading something, and what hit me was like this idea that uh, how could you compare yourself to anybody else when today I am the oldest and the youngest version of myself.
Mm,
So then, how can I ever compare to you? Because you're the oldest and the youngest version of you today, and
mhm,
we're not the same. So I have no reason to ever compare myself with anybody else because there's
mm,
so many variables that makes you who you are. And it's an interesting thing because when you start to like go, okay, I don't want to compare myself, but I still need motivation and
mhm,
inspiration, right? Because humans, we get inspired by a need to survive or
mhm.
by aspiration. Most of us don't know how to find aspiration. People always say like, oh, like find it with it. How? Fuck, is there like a button I switch on? You know? Yeah, it's not that easy. But we know when
Yeah.
we're hungry, we're starving, we're poor, we're whatever. When things are taken away, we
Mhm,
know how to react. But if it's an empty canvas, it's like a blank wall, blank whatever, and it's like, okay, man, dream and be inspirational. We don't know
mhm,
how to do that.
mhm.
We need a blueprint. That's why cavemen left paintings on the wall for us to follow. And that, okay, that thing looks like it's gonna eat me, so I'm gonna look for it and not like be in its presence, right? So
Yeah.
when you're out looking at, okay, I have this dream version of what Kevin wants to do
Mhm,
at 15, at 17, at 18, but you don't have the framework because your parents are immigrant hustlers trying to figure
mhm.
out like how to keep food on the table. What do you start to connect? How do you start to envision you can do these things? Because nobody in your house is like a real estate person that's doing stuff. Nobody in your
Mhm.
family probably is like a VC venture person that you followed and go, oh man, I want to be like that person. Where
Yeah,
did that come from?
for sure. So I guess for myself, when I was young, like I mentioned before, I used to play a lot of sports when I was a little kid. And like for me, playing sports was kind of an outlet for me to really relax myself, but then also to be, really focused on myself and I guess kind of the goal that I want to do for each game. So whether it was to win or to score a lot of goals or something like that. But I feel like from that time and that kind of like purpose as well too, um, the things that really connected for me that I found was definitely trying to find um, the I wouldn't say because the thing is like when you're young you can't find your purpose, right? Because like who finds that purpose when they're 14, 15?
Yeah.
So
Let's see a
what
little
I
bit, and you kind of know.
that's true, yeah. But
Believe
not
it.
that but not all of us are like LeBron. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's kind of the I guess the bad part on that. But I guess for me it's literally just on like just trying new things, man. Like every single day. I always go about this, but it's literally just try something new that will like make you scared or that will make you feel uncomfortable.
100%.
Um, and I feel like for me, like I was trying to find new ways that always made me, uncomfortable in some way, so that basically all of this uncomfortableness would be, built up all within my body, and it would be more comfortable for me to do later on into the future.
Ah, you're like training
Yeah,
the muscle to just be uncomfortable,
exactly. Yeah.
right? It's so interesting because like the word uncomfortable sometimes for me, everybody says it. I say it sometimes. I get out of your comfort zone, and you've said it.
Mm,
We say it because we've done it. I've
mm,
started my first business when I was 18, and I've never looked back. Not because I thought, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur. I was so afraid of not getting a job because somebody else was going to look at my resume and be like, this person is not good or good. I'm like, no, I don't give you that power. I
mm,
don't want to give another human the power to control my ability to be good at something. And
mm,
that comes from a lifetime of people telling me I'm a stupid student. So I hate
mm.
going to school because somebody decided I'm not a good student. I'm like, listen, 51 is a pass. So is 99.
Yeah.
So if if we looked at it as a pass or fail, I'm no different than everybody else. When you looked
Mm,
at it like are you smart or not smart, all of a sudden 51 puts a different light when you're on 99. And so for me, I never wanted to give that power to anybody else. And so I've never wanted to do anything where I don't have the say over my own, sort of path. Today
mm.
is out of the box, uncomfortable. When I'm doing it, it's fucking fear and scary, right? Like,
Yeah.
when you are looking at getting uncomfortable, how do you silence your voice of shit, man, you're gonna fail or this sucks or why do you even start this thing? This is going to be a huge bust. How do you start thinking about how to stop that noise?
Hmm. Um,
Oh, you
I
don't
feel,
like I don't.
yeah, that's true. I feel like as human intuition, with everyone itself too, we always have this self-doubt where in our heads we realize that we can't do this, we can't do that. We're just beginners. How do we become from X, Y, Z? And that's one of the biggest things that I find with a lot of challenges that people have, not even just as adults, but even with teenagers and just anywhere else. Um, and I feel like for me, what's worked in my past is to always be self-aware on the specific areas that you wanted to learn specifically in a subject or whatever you want to do, and focus on that for, at a given time or at a given months ahead of you. So, some people, especially nowadays in today's society, it's always about, like literally for one quick thing, people basically just want to get rich really quick. That's the thing.
Yeah,
But the thing is, that's just kind of bullshit. Like, there's no such thing as a rich quick scheme.
I've been looking
Um,
for 25 years, bro. If you find
Honestly, I've been looking for it too for the past, I guess, like a couple of years in my life. But I realized, man, this entrepreneurship game, this,
yeah.
how to make money game is not easy at all. So,
And just
um,
a quick pause, okay?
mhm,
The last time I had this chat, somebody was like, "But bro, what about all these 18-year-old kids that are killing on Amazon? They're making millions of dollars." Listen, there's a huge difference between what you make and what you keep. If
mhm,
you actually look at the numbers that these guys have in a dissective formula, they pull in $1 million and they spend 995,000 to make that money. The
mhm,
amount of dollars they pump into advertising, product, wastage, shipping, you're left with decent money, but it's not multi-million dollars. And
mhm,
so we get caught up on that toxic message of, oh, look, this guy made $1 million selling wristbands. No,
mhm,
he made 50,000, but he gave up all the rest to make 50,000. There's a
mhm,
huge difference, people, on what you keep and what you earn. They're not connected. They're not connected. This is
mhm,
this is when I see kids. They're like, "Oh man, my paycheck came in and I'm balling, so I'm gonna go get some bottles." And then you forget, oh shit, I have car payment, house payment, phone payment. I have all the stuff I gotta do, and I just drank it all.
mhm,
So pay attention, man. Like money doesn't lie. So anyhow,
mhm.
sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And I also kind of like realize this too, but I would rather be rich and not famous at all rather than being rich and famous.
Talk
Because
to me about that. That's an interesting statement.
yeah. So I guess by rich, what I mean by rich is being wealthy in the state of mind and also being, wealthy perhaps in the bank account as well too. But I would rather have my own peace and also my own space of, hopefulness that I would be able to have this into the future rather than, being a bunch of these, I wouldn't say like be a bunch of these upcoming like rappers or anything, but, people who flex money all the time, who try to show off girls and have bottle service. If you kind of keep that, I guess, like consistent rate going on, you realize that by the time when you're 30 or you're 35, you have kind of have this thing where it's just like you know you realize that you've done a lot of mistakes before, and the quicker your mistakes come by, the quicker you can adapt to it. And one of the things that I always live by is there's this actually, I'm not too sure if you know a gentleman named Ray Dalio before. He's a
No.
okay, so he's a founder of Bridgewater Associates. It's just kind of like a venture capital firm. But what he basically said is you have to fail well and adapt well.
Let's say
Yeah,
that one more time. Fail well and adapt well.
exactly. Fail well and adapt well. And I feel for a lot of people is that, people fail, but they don't know how to fail well. But they don't know how to adapt to it as well too. Because the
Ah,
thing is, when a lot of failures come by, it's just like, fuck, like, I'm sorry if I swear or anything,
no,
but
no, no.
like
I
it's,
swear it all the time. Fucking do it.
yeah. So it's just like, well, shit, like, like I failed, like, what do I do? And then you kind of go into this state where you're just like sitting in your couch or in your bed and you're just kind of like just thinking to yourself, like, I can't do this at all. But in the end, it's always about like just adapting to, what those failures can be, and it's adapting well. That I find is literally the biggest thing that I've learned over the past couple of years as well.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Interesting. We talked about, I think in episode 7, for those of you joining us, thank you so much for making some time. Friday morning at 9 a.m. You know how dedicated these folks are for some self-improvement, that they want to come and hang out and listen to us talk. I love you for it. You are my exact human that I love. So thank you for watching. I talked a little bit about this idea of fail, right? And I feel like this is kind of my thesis in life and what I'm sort of hoping to put into the book. But uh, the idea of fail comes from a position of ego,
Mm,
and the idea of like accomplishment and accountability comes from a position of like goal oriented. I want to do
mm,
something, so along the way I've got tasks and accomplishments that are driven by accountability, right? But the minute you start thinking about I failed at something, that is you feeding the ego, because all of those uh, emotional connections to failure comes out of an ego that says, man, if I fail, what's Kevin going to think? What am I going to update my LinkedIn or what? So if you remove the ego part, you can't
mm,
fail in anything in life. You either accomplish a few things or you don't. And the things you don't accomplish, you can tie it back to lack of interest or lack of passion or lack of opportunity, and you
mm,
move on. Like for me, that has been the greatest way to take a ton of risks and get rid of my ego at the same time.
mm.
How do you manage ego, which is in all of us?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess like just as in human intuition again, like ego, selfishness, building all of this kind of hype around yourself in your brain, that's all developed in ourselves. And one of the biggest things that I've discovered to myself is with ego that I have, just drop that shit, honestly, because dropping your ego makes yourself more transparent in yourself.
Mm,
And the more transparent you are to yourself, the more transparent you could be towards the real world as well too.
right.
And what I guess discovered for myself too is like by ego, I thought I was this kind of like hot shot like entrepreneur that is like just doing a lot of things that sold a couple of businesses, but in the end, I don't know shit. I don't know jack shit. Like because in the end, like I'm a person who wants to learn every single day
Right.
instead of being a teacher. And the thing is, you can't be a teacher every single time because there's always a person or there's always something that's always ahead of you or over the top where you can learn more.
100%.
And a lot of us, we cap ourselves at a specific limit where that's where we don't basically go towards our goals, and we don't achieve our greatness in our lifetime. And that's one of the biggest, I guess, problems that we have in society is because people are just building up their ego every single time and every single day
Mm,
that, we just think that we're something, but we're not. And the
right,
thing
right.
is, you have to be like, you have to just be in reality and just adapt to it pretty well.
Yeah, and then that's
Yeah.
well said, man. Like, uh, reality and being in the present is the hardest thing to do, because so
Hmm.
many of our day-to-day life is controlled by our past,
Mm,
and we're constantly trying to avoid the pain that we felt, or we're afraid of the future,
mm,
and so we don't take any risks. And it's like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I spend a lot of time talking to my kids about this because, it's really interesting, right? Because like I was self-aware, but I wasn't
mm,
as self-aware as I am now when I'm a dad,
mm,
because I get to see the habits of like the 1 year old to the 5 year old to the 7 year old to the 12 year old, and we have two kids, and so I get to see Layla's transition as I see my son Shaquille's transition. And what's fascinating is like age 1 to like 3 or 4, they're afraid of most things because they're fragile and everything they're seeing is for the first time, like the big giant couch and oh my gosh, and they're afraid. They're learning how to walk. And then from that like to 4 to 7 or even
mm.
10 is fearlessness, bro. Jumping from couch to couch, climbing shit, want to get on the tree. Everything is that I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. And as a parent now, you're like, no, 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 no. You're gonna get hurt. No, no, no. Because we're like projecting this crazy fear that they're gonna get hurt.
Mm.
And then 11, 12, 13 happens like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
where's the shift? Because 3 years ago, you were fearless because the world was like your oyster and you can go and do whatever. And then some programming is happening where your
Mm-hmm.
brain is starting to now tell you, no, I can't do this and I can't do that. And I'm so conscious of it that I try to remove those moments from them. But I feel like if we're consciously don't pay attention to that noise, it just gets more mature
Mm-hmm.
and it grows with you. You know, every time Kevin is becoming a little older, so is that voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's up to you to now to figure out how to train that voice because it's not going anywhere. It's going to be with you till the day you die. The very last person you're going to hear in your head before your time is up is your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well figure out how to live with this thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I'm always curious about people like us is like, how do you deal with loneliness? Because at the top, there's not a lot of people around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that we have to learn how to do by ourselves because you can't find people to hang with us when they're running 9 to 5. What are some of the things that you've become comfortable in doing by yourself?
Yeah. Um, I guess for a couple of things that made me just super comfortable when so I guess for myself, being at 22, there's not a lot of people who, own property, who's, sold a business and stuff like that. So I feel like for me, it's kind of hard to really, try to understand and especially be friends of who I guess want to be friends with in a way. So which basically just kind of ends up for me to, have more personal time and just to kind of self-reflect on exactly on, I guess, which friends I want to hang out with and stuff like that.
Mm,
So I guess for me, one of the biggest key takeaways that I think I always do whenever I feel lonely is literally just to keep myself busy. So I always try to like say this, but you have to find different outlets to make you creative, to make you a stream of income, to make you, productive, and you have to find at least three different. There's more categories within those as well too, but
right.
it's finding that specific kind of category where if you keep that in a consistent basis, then your mind will actually just kind of shut off by itself and actually allow you to do more things, to do more
Mm,
challenges ahead, to to basically just climb obstacles that you may not have realized that it might be in the future.
yeah, yeah.
And that's just kind of one of the biggest things that I've been able to do. Yeah.
And is that tie into like you practice gratitude? And how do you practice gratitude? And are you getting into meditation and Zen? It's been challenging for me, man, to get into that world. I
Mhm.
try and then I drop off, and I try and I drop off.
Mhm.
But how do you do that every day?
Yeah. For me, it's consistency. So for me, I think like about like a year and a half ago, I used to wake up at like 4 a.m. as like some ridiculous like
I remember
time.
that challenge. I took it for a
Yeah.
while. I'm like, I'm gonna do the Kevin, 5 a.m. challenge for like a month, and I did it. It was crazy. I couldn't keep it up, but
Yeah, and that's fair. But I guess for me now, I realize that 4 a.m. might be a bit too early for me. So,
yeah.
so I try to wake up at 5 a.m. now. But usually what I do is like in the morning, I ride my bike, my road bike, and just try to, do a couple of, I guess, go around different areas. In the morning time, I sit by like a bench near a lake shore. I just literally just sit down and just like hear the water and just breathe. And that, I guess, just keeping that up every single day for perhaps even 2 weeks.
Mm,
Because I think 2 weeks to a month, that's when you actually start to develop a habit.
right.
And a lot of people don't realize that is, people just assume that like, oh, if I do this one thing, then it'll make me feel a lot better. It's definitely not going to at all.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
consistency.
it is, yeah.
Huh.
And I find that trust the process is literally the biggest thing as well too, because a lot of people just they're always, I guess, they have a lot of like in this society as well too, there's so many um obstacles and there's so many distractions that are keeping from us of towards our goal. And
Yeah.
one of the biggest things is literally just to keep that all out, stick to a consistent, plan that you have, and just keep that up for, a month or so and just kind of see the results from that. And once you see
Right.
the results, then you'd be able to self-reflect yourself from, a month ago and just see the progress you made.
No, that's incredible, man.
Hmm.
One of the core topics this week is around like breaking through barriers when you're down and out, right? Maybe talk to me a little bit about, something in your business that happened where you had to sort of figure out how to get through it when everything just felt like it wasn't going to happen,
Hmm.
how do you crack through that wall? How do you find that motivation to like, continue when bam, it's like the world is like, now, Kev, stop.
Hmm. So yeah, that's honestly that's with everyone as well too. And I find that the biggest thing for me is if there's always an obstacle ahead of you, you always have to realize that there are so many different ways to go about it that a lot of people for us, they just look at one or two things that might look ahead of us and just say, oh, okay. If I fail at this point from A, and then if I have to go to B, then people just assume that, oh, if I can't do A, then I can't go to B. But you can go from A to C to A to D to all the way down to Z and try to find different ways to do that. But the thing is, people don't
What?
realize that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so good. And switching to K2K Ventures,
Hmm.
K2K Ventures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to evaluate business ideas because it's business ideas. You and I
Hmm.
have been in many different investor sort of meetings and things like that because you hear the best of the idea, but there's so many things that can go wrong. So I tried to find like the human quality that inspires me too.
Hmm.
For those of us that are watching and looking to get into entrepreneurship and want to pursue their own dreams, from the people you've met, some of the more successful entrepreneurs, yourself included, what are maybe two or three things that like defines how they approach life?
Mm. Um, sorry, do you mind saying that again? Sorry about that. I
Yeah, no,
didn't
it's
catch
okay.
that. Yeah.
So when I look at like, a pool of entrepreneurs, I can kind of tell from conversation with them, with their daily habits, how they govern themselves, the kind of outlook they have in life, how successful they will be in business. Whether
Hmm.
it's this idea they're pitching me or 10 other ideas, because the formula for success, so much of it includes sort of your daily momentum building tasks, how you look at the way, life is. So when you're meeting people that are pitching you guys for venture, for funding,
Hmm.
some of it is, okay, is the idea good, right? Then you're also looking at the human going, okay, can this person pull it off?
Hmm.
What are some of the things you look for in that human capacity?
For sure. So what I always look for in basically in anyone that I work with is the first one is the ability to be transparent. The second one is literally to is for them to kind of see, or I guess for me to see on how they define obstacles when they come by. Because in reality, a lot of people face obstacles, but it's about how you overcome them. And instead of what I mentioned before, from going A to B, to going from A to C to A to D, I really look into that for
Hmm.
specific people, because I realize basically investing in those kind of people are the ones who will make a difference in today's world.
Right.
And another thing is for each of my, I guess, ventures, with each of, the entrepreneurs that I work with and a couple of, companies that I invest as well too, I always look for ways that will change not, for themselves, but into society as well too.
Right.
Because if you don't invest in society, technically you won't, potentially lead to a successful venture later on or anything like that.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it, man.
Mm.
No, this is good, bro. I love that we started with the immigrant mindset with your folks, and you've turned that immigrant mindset into a hustler mindset, which is amazing. I can't believe you're only 22, and the world is like at your fingertips to do some amazing things. And the fact that you're socially conscious about what to invest in and how to spend your time.
Mm.
I've been a huge fan, and I want to continue to sort of follow and see what you're up to. Next time you go for that bike ride, let me know, bro. I'm gonna come hang with you, listen to the waves. In parting, um, when you look at sort of, not necessarily project 5 years down the line, what is probably like the one thing uh, coming out of COVID where you're like, man, I need to work on that thing, which I didn't
Mm.
really know until COVID happened. Because a lot of people, don't know how to be with themselves. And I think COVID has forced that shutdown to go, hey, right now it's just you and you. The world is not caring. They don't care. Everybody's doing their own thing. And never have I in my life uh, been in that position where like it is me and me for the very first time.
Hmm.
Uh, what is your thoughts coming out of COVID? What is the areas that you were like, man, I gotta get stronger or better or things like that?
Yeah, man. This COVID thing hasn't been the best thing for for all of us, but I think in reality, COVID has really taught us. To be honest, I don't know how long COVID's going to go for because I don't think anyone knows, but
I think it's
it's
part of who we are now. I think
yeah.
we're gonna go through a phase of people getting comfortable
Hmm.
knowing anybody can have it. I think we're going to adjust to new behaviors. Uh, and even with vaccination, we still have no way to identify this thing. And so
Hmm.
I think as society, I think we're forever changed. To what degree, we don't know yet. But I think it's a new world now. It's not go. So this idea like it's going to disappear, it's not. It's going to be forever
Hmm.
part of our history. We're just going to learn how to live with it in a conscious way now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. It's a different world now that we live in. But I feel like especially for a lot of people, you know, who are in their houses with their spouses or with their family or anything else like that, whenever you do get a chance to be by yourself, I guess for me, what I've really wanted to work on is kind of my basically my emotion and mental aspects of what I wanted to do. So with my emotions, I always wanted to um, be in love with myself more and be comfortable of who I am. And especially
Man,
with the body that I have, with anything that I have too, I've just been so comfortable with myself now. It's just like I don't give a single fuck about what other people think about me at all. And I think for that, like I've just been so comfortable with that. And it's again like having the ego to yourself, just drop everything. Because
incredible.
once you drop everything, then you start to realize like this emotion aspect of yourself and you start to realize what you love and what you don't love. And I've just been able to have this whole thing. And if you don't mind me sharing as well too, to everyone as well, I have this like basically mirror that I have in my house here. But
Oh, damn.
I always have these you know, specific notes is basically you could do anything, achieve anything. You know, you're in control of your own destiny. Take action, get started, be truthful and transparent, struggle well and evolve well, create big goals and break them into actionable units. You are loved by friends and family. You are simply
Wow.
amazing. Take risks, do something that scares you every day, embrace reality, and have a healthy fear of being wrong. And I think this is one of the biggest things as well too. Um,
Wow.
and I honestly, by that man, like
Wow.
I put that in my mirror every single day for the past like year, and it's basically just been making me into a
Wow.
more developed person, man. It's
Bro,
crazy.
that is the biggest, craziest list of amazing words anybody has shared on this. And this is what I love this stuff, man. Like literally, I decided every morning I'm gonna talk and share and bring on some friends to kickstart my own.
Hmm.
And this is me life hacking my own brain to going, oh man. And I think like for me, COVID's really hammered in that like I you literally bring nothing into this world and you take nothing with you. Like
Hmm.
I have it written down on my wall, just like you upstairs. It's like I bring nothing, I take nothing, and there's a
Hmm.
giant white space in the middle. I should make it into a t-shirt. The giant white space in the middle is so temporary, which is all we have, but
Hmm.
it's so temporary. And we own it like we think we can take something with us. We can't.
Hmm.
You come naked and you die with nothing other than the value of that white space. And
Wow.
the greatest value of that white space is how we impact others. There's nothing
Hmm.
else. That's truth. There's no other truth. And that's been the greatest reminder coming out of COVID for me. And I thank you for your time this morning. Value bombs is always it's crazy. Let's get a bottle once the world heals. I'm just kidding.
I'm so down.
But I'll hit you up after, man. Tell me about the book. Tell me about the book before we close up. The
Yeah, for
book.
sure.
Yeah.
So the book that I guess that I wanted to I guess kind of ask Satish about is kind of the book called Can't what was it again? That's Can't um,
Can't get hurt.
yeah, Can't Get Hurt. So it's by David Goggins. And basically just a kind of like quick story is basically he was a 300-pound man who, worked basically to kill cockroaches. And he did this for a living and he realized, he's been just basically just developing a lot of shitty habits. Like literally, like he, ate donuts, he, drank like slushies and all this like different stuff every single time. And one day he just kind of saw on TV that there's this like marine like kind of corp thing. And he was just like, I want to be one of those guys. So what he first started doing is like he literally just went on a jog for like, a couple, not even a kilometer, probably like, a couple of like 100 meters. And he's like, shit, I can't do this, because like I'm fat, I can't do this. But like I mentioned too, of like what you and I talked about on this live station as well too, is literally it's the consistency, man. Because
Mm.
for him, he realized that he basically realized that in his head that he always thought that like he was shit, he can't do anything. But on the inside, on the true honor, like inner inside of his body, he realized that, you know what, there are so many things that are wrong about me. But if I keep this up and if I keep this consistent, then I know I'd be able to lose all this pounds, be, like a huge like runner. He's a crazy athlete now. He, does a ton of like motivational like speaking as well too, but
Yeah. That book,
it's crazy.
I binge read it in a weekend. I couldn't put it down. I didn't even know much about it. Like when I go buy books, I sort of browse emotionally, and
Hmm.
I just need to pick me up. So I go to the bookstore and I kind of walk around, and what cover, what calls to me really sets what mood I walk in with, right? Like I
Hmm.
track the book. I didn't know much about it, and I was like, man, this looks interesting. I opened it, read the first like little bit, and I was like, oh shit, I got to read this. And then I
Hmm.
brought it home, and I didn't put it down for the entire weekend. Like it was just go, 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 go. I can't get hurt, David Goggins. I'll put in the description for those of you that are interested in picking it up. Man, this is dope. I love you. Thank you so
I love
much.
this, man.
Hopefully we can get together soon once the world heals a little bit, or we'll figure out how to mask up and have a good time.
For sure.
But thank you, brother, for joining me and sharing so much amazing wisdom and showing us, the mirror. That was like the bomb. That was crazy. That put everything into context. You're not just talking the talk. We're walking the walk, man.
For sure, man. And honestly, thank you again, Satish. You are honestly such an inspiration. I feel like literally when I first, met you, back then, I was just like, man, like this guy, he knows so much truth, and like, it's kind of basically for me to follow people in the right footsteps. And honestly, thank you so much for that because I've been able to, learn a lot from yourself of what you've done, and especially, how you want to live your life now, especially for, when you have kids now. So it's a huge inspiration,
I
man,
appreciate it,
Satish.
my brother. Please buy my book when it comes out December 31st. I'm just kidding. Always hustling. Always hustling.
Always
All
got
right,
it,
bro.
man.
I love you. Thank you.
Take care, man.